There's a story I know. It's about the earth and how it floats in space on the back of a turtle. Imagine it now with me. The earth, well, we'll imagine a flat earth for the sake of this image. The earth is balanced on the shell of a turtle. In other words, underneath our feet is the land, and underneath the ground is the soil, and that soil rests deep down on the back of a turtle that carries the whole earth. One time, I was listening to a rendition of this story, and at one point, a little girl in the audience interrupted the storyteller and said, "If the earth is on the back of a turtle, what's underneath the turtle?" And the storyteller paused. "Another turtle," he told her, maybe thinking he could get out of it. And the little girl frowned and she said, "Okay, well, what about below that turtle?" She asked. "Another turtle," the storyteller said. "And below that?" she asked. "Yes," the storyteller said, "another turtle." The little girl began to giggle, enjoying the game. "So how many turtles are there?" she wanted to know. And the storyteller shrugged and he said, "No one knows for sure. But what I can tell you is that it's turtles all the way down." So imagine it. The land sits on a turtle, who sits on a turtle, who sits on a turtle, and on and on and on. How many of you have heard of this concept before? Some folks have heard of it. This particular version of the story, of the little girl interrupting the storyteller, is from Thomas King, a wonderful Native American author. This concept of our existence being held up by turtles all the way down with no ground in sight may appear to go against what you have been taught in Christian circles. You may have been taught that God is the firm ground that we are all on, the thing that holds us up, the solid ground underneath the turtle, if you will. The turtles all the way down image, on the other hand, presents an alternative. But I don't think it's incompatible. I think it's just an alternative way of thinking about God. What if God, the ground that we stand on, is made up of turtles all the way down? A never-ending chain of relationship and dependence, where one is on the back of the other, and on the back of the other, and on the back of the other. What if we and all the turtles hold each other up? What if the essence of God, God's self, is this never-ending chain of relationship? As I've said, today is Trinity Sunday, the day we celebrate the mystery of the Trinity. And we are all familiar with the formula. God is three in one, Creator, Christ, and Holy Spirit. Unfortunately, in this church, efforts to adequately teach and explain this doctrine, important aspects of its meaning have often been overlooked. What does it mean to say that God is three in one? What does it mean that all three persons of the Trinity are God, but there is differentiation among them? The three persons of the Trinity do not exist on their own. They only exist in relationship to each other. To believe in the Trinity is to believe that God is a community. God is not just a single independent entity. The essence of God is relational community. God and God's self, this relational community, is the ground that we stand on. The ground that we stand on is community. This unending chain of turtles, of community, and I like to think of as our ancestry. I have spent a large portion of my life thinking that it is my responsibility to take charge of it, to plan it, to direct it, to make it happen, to choose a career, where would I like to be, and go in that direction and take all the steps to get there. My parents and my teachers always emphasized the importance of preparing for the future, of planning ahead and making smart, responsible choices. And I was led to believe from all of that emphasis that I was in control of my life, that it was up to me how my life went. I could craft it and I could make it into whatever I wanted it to be. You are the author of your own life story. Maybe that's what you've been told as well. There are positive aspects of this messaging. For example, no one ever told me that I couldn't be whatever profession I wanted to be. No one ever told me I couldn't be a doctor or a lawyer or a pastor. And I am so grateful for that. However, when taken to the extreme, and believe me, I took it to the extreme, this emphasis on controlling our own lives can really be paralyzing, and it's a losing battle. We cannot control everything. The pressure to control the path of one's life makes it incredibly difficult to make big decisions where the stakes are high. And looking back now, I realize that way of living life is deeply unrelational. It's highly individualistic. What do I want for my life, and how am I going to make it happen? This view overlooks the fact that we do not craft our lives in a vacuum, that the community and the earth are not objects that are the backdrop to our action. No matter how privileged we are or how hard we try, we can't control everything. We do not know what is going to happen, and we can't fully control the path of our lives. It's harmful to expect ourselves to. In our readings today, we remember the beauty and the wonder of the cosmos, God's staggeringly vast and breathtaking, intricate creation. How many times have you looked up to the sky, the night stars, and thought to yourself, how small I am, how very small my life is in the midst of this massive reality? Whenever you have done this, you have joined in the song of the psalmist today. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars you have set in your courses, the psalmist writes, what are mere mortals that you should be mindful of them, human beings that you should care for them? We are so small in the context of the cosmos, and each one of us is one creature among the multitude of God's creation. We are God's creatures. We are not the center. We are not the creator with a capital C. We live entirely dependent on God, on Mother Earth, on one another. And yet, the psalmist goes on, God, you put us in charge of all creatures and placed your whole earth in our hands. In other words, despite our smallness, we have been given great power, terrible power, Stephen Mitchell calls it in his version of Psalm 8. Terrible power. We have been given the power to create, to express ourselves, to innovate, to make change. We have the power to harm and destroy, and we have the power to love. We may not be the creator, but we are creators, co-creators. We co-create with God and with one another. In these readings, we see God's creative action. This creation is the activity of the three persons of the Trinity, the activity of the community of God. We could say that God co-creates with God's self. God is a co-creator, and God made us in God's image, and we too, therefore, are co-creators, not creating in isolation, but creating in community as God does. In our gospel reading, we hear an explicit call to action. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Creator, the Christ, and the Holy Spirit. Unfortunately, this passage is usually interpreted in an imperialistic, relationship warping kind of way. It is taken to mean that Jesus has the authority over and against leaders of other traditions, and that Jesus sends us out to indoctrinate everyone into our way of thinking. This hugely misses this important aspect of the Trinity, the God that we profess to follow. This Trinity is a model of egalitarian relationship, not authoritarian relationship. Being baptized into the Creator, Christ, and Holy Spirit is being baptized into egalitarian relationship with creation. It is about receiving unconditional love, being empowered and being nurtured in the context of a supportive community that is mutual and mutually empowered. This is what we are called to bring to the world. We are called to embody that love. We are called to empower those we meet. We are called to commune in community with them. In this passage, we see Jesus passing his authority on to us. And the point is not only that Jesus is the authority, but that his authority empowers us to be authorities. We become not just followers, but also leaders, not just creatures, but also creators. We may not be the author of our lives, but we are co-authors. We are co-authors of our individual lives, but more importantly, we are co-authors in the story of creation. Instead of what are you going to do with your life, how about what are we doing with this portion of the story of creation? We can't control everything, but we can respond to what happens to us and to what is happening in the world. The creative activity of the Trinity is ongoing. It is not one and done, and we get to be part of it. Our hymn of the day describes this creative activity of the Trinity as being like a dance. The three persons of the Trinity dance among themselves, and I like to think that that dance is their creation. I like to think that the joy and love and humor expressed through that dance gives rise to more and more creatures of the universe, each of whom is then invited to join the dance as co-creators, adding their own moves and style. We were all born out of this dance and born for this dance. And even the dance floor itself is community all the way down.